Alright, so I think for a lot of millennials and Gen Z and probably honestly across generations, the entry to property market is going to be something like this. You know, a manufactured home, maybe 20 years old. Um, maybe you can get something a little newer. I don't know, we could have probably done better if we had stuck around looking for a lot longer, but we also would have paid even more interest than we're already paying. So we decided to go with this. This works for us. It's a pretty nice spot. But it does have problems, and these problems I think are kind of universal to manufactured homes. I've seen similar design flaws across all of them, and there's a few different things. So first off, biggest thing, um, manage your leaks. So right now we've got a leak right here in this window. This has been a problem since we bought the house. It doesn't rain very often here. But when it does, this window leaks. I've got a bucket there to try and catch it. It leaks in like 3 different spots, and it's leaking kind of down the window. And what's happening, let me show you. There's a few things that are happening here. Ugh, that also happens. So water also drips down past this little drip edge that they tried to add to mitigate the problem, and it accumulates on top of this door. So that's really helpful. This door is a little bit expanded out. It's not too bad. It's still salvageable, but anyway, so first of all, this stuff, this particle board stuff, honestly, I don't think it should be used as a building material whatsoever, because as soon as any water gets in it at all, it rots and it's destroyed and you have to replace it. You see, we've tried to mitigate a few spots where it was leaking, and I put some spray foam in there just to reduce the gap right there. But basically what water's doing, I think, is it's leaking because that's not sealed and because this gutter was not put on very evenly. It's leaking right there and it's dripping down. It's probably also dripping down here, so it actually is going behind the what would you call that, fascia, the trim there, and it's working its way behind this window. So even if we seal up this window, it's not going to do much good, because the water is essentially working its way under the gutter and behind the gutter and under and behind the trim. The reason that this happens is because there's not a substantial overhang or reveal on the roof. So I don't know if you can see right there, but the roof just barely goes past the start of the gutter. And if you don't have gutters, which the majority of these do not have gutters on them, your reveal of your roof is just, right there. And so, of course, water works its way into the walls. This is not a terminal situation. This is very fixable, but it has to be managed. They have to be aware of it and have to put the effort in to fix it. There's other issues. I see like this dryer vent that I think was meant to be like an optional dryer vent. It also would leak, and that's why it's filled with spray foam there for now. I'm going to put a dryer vent cover over that eventually and caulk it really good just to make sure that it's sealed up. This is what a proper dryer vent actually looks like. Another common issue, we see all kinds of spots where we had to attempt to seal up gaps. You can see, I don't know if you can see there, but along the roof line there's the gutters were not put on very, very well. Any penetrations like these little cable collars, you can see first of all that this fascia board is also rotting. It's not squishy or anything, and it probably is still fixable, but I would want to caulk all along all of that. I would want to seal up all the gap. Probably what we're going to do is actually take the gutter all the way down and redo it, and try to get more of a reveal on the roof maybe. What I'd like to do long term is replace this roof with a pro panel roof and just have, like, you know, a pretty substantial, you know, bigger than that even, reveal to it, so that, you know, when water drips down, it doesn't drip down behind the walls. It's just kind of, these things are knocked together. You got to think that they put these together in maybe a week. And, I mean, your electrical gets done in an hour. Your plumbing gets done in an hour. Your roof gets done in a few hours. So everything is just, you know, knocking them out, production line style. So, you know, there will be problems. All these original metal doors, I recommend doors and windows, honestly, if you can, replace them, because they kind of suck. And they're not full height usually either. This one happens to be full height, but it kind of looks like the front door they had to enlarge the gap. And the problem with that, the reason that that sucks, is that's not the garbage truck, okay. The reason that sucks is that someone like me, 6'4", 5, 6, somewhere in there, you know, I'm gonna have to deal with. Of course, this water, by the way, drips right down, right, like here on the inside of the door when you open the door. So that sucks. This is something they tried to do to mitigate it. They added this little overhang here. It's not great, little drip edge. It needs to be sealed up better. But the reason that the regular size doors suck, of course, is because someone like me will hit their head on them going in and out. And one of the manufactured homes at some point in my life that I lived in, you know, kind of just constantly hitting my head was definitely a detriment to my ability to stay sane living there. You can see another spot, by the way, down here, where probably the water had gotten in here, and it had caused the interior panel to bow and bend. And we did a mold test, and this place is actually really non-moldy, which is kind of amazing. But I think part of that is just due to mitigation. I think they've probably done a lot of just removing bad stuff, and replacing it and mitigating leaks, and we have some mitigating leaks to do. So these aren't all terminal illnesses, and I wouldn't say that these are necessarily reasons that you absolutely shouldn't buy one of these homes. They're just reasons that, well, for one, I would pay less for it. Like in my case, the equation was essentially, do I want more land, or do I want a, you know, a proper old school adobe home? And for me, it was worth it to sacrifice a little bit on the quality of the home to have a bigger piece of land, because at the end of the day, I can pull this house out of here and I can build a proper home, you know, if I'd like, you know, a nicely built adobe. And this is comfortable. I mean, we're comfortable here. It needs some work here and there, but at the end of the day, it doesn't contribute that much to the value of the home itself, you know, of the place. Most of the value that's here is the land, and the land is worth, I think, the value that we're paying for it, considering the market. So, you know, and considering that we can use this, we can do a lot with it. You know, I'd like to have pro panel roofing so I can catch the rain off of it, things like that. Let me show you some other things, though, that go wrong with these houses. The thing that can be kind of junky is the original stoves in these will often go bad. Also, you got to think, if this thing was ever rented out, there might be a lot of issues that just weren't taken care of. So it may be worth it to, you know, if there's something that's broken and it's original, just replace it with the full size equivalent, like what was done here with the stove. The stove is probably a lot nicer than what was original. This was here when we moved in, but this is probably a lot better than what was originally here. Same with the dishwasher. Probably a much nicer dishwasher than was originally in here. I will say this dishwasher is kind of a piece of junk. It never really worked very well. But I think part of the reason for that is we have extremely hard water here. Let me see if I can show you that. So coming in here, if we go over to this counter, as you can see, there's just stain from the hard water there, and it's like chalky almost. And that's just kind of what we deal with the water here. Super high calcium minerally water, and it tends to ruin the unions between the pipes, like the connectors between the pipes, tends to ruin water heaters, uh, clog up pipes in general. Good idea to get a water softener in our area probably, and or a whole house filter. We don't even try to drink the water, it comes out of the faucet. That's, by the way, a common thing. I would say if you can, replace your plumbing with PEX rather than the polybutylene that's common in these. I believe it's polybutylene. I'm not fully familiar with everything. I'm still learning all this stuff, but PEX, this house was done with PEX, and so we have a little bit of an advantage there because we don't have this crummy plumbing that just breaks and crumbles at the first sign of trouble. Another thing about these places is the countertops. It's just this cheap composite material, whatever, glued together wood. This one's okay. You can see it needs to be caulked here, just so that water doesn't run down this and get that area moldy. And there are flaws, by the way. This house was done with paneling. I see these little pieces of trim. That's a good indicator that everything is done with paneling. If you don't have these little pieces of trim, if they're hidden, from my experience, and maybe I'm wrong, but that tends to mean that it's done with sheetrock. Sheetrock is, in my opinion, nicer. The problem with sheetrock is that it might crack on the way to its destination, so you might have more cracks, but you also have just a better looking wall material. But in the end, things that tend to happen with this paneling stuff, and these, again, the cheap steel or aluminum windows, they tend to leak a little bit, and moisture will condensate around them, and they're poorly insulated. The two glass panels, you can't clean inside this panel at all. You can hardly clean inside this one. This barely sits in here, so this will easily fall out of here. Like I could probably pull it, see, like I could probably yank that out of there if I wanted to. So, just things that kind of suck about them, and like, how do you clean that? It's possible, it's just a big pain. And so, just little things that kind of degrade your experience of the home, that you might want to like look into fixing or replacing. Let's see, what else can I show you? While we're here, flooring is a huge thing. Most manufactured homes come with carpet, and they'll have carpet in most of the home, and then like a linoleum type thing around the doorways. Put a floating floor or the tongue and groove flooring or something along those lines. This laminate. This is great stuff. Use it. Put it in here. You won't regret it. You'll be happier with it, I think, because it's easier to clean. I think it's not as likely that something happens. And in my opinion, carpet is just awful. I mean, rugs are great, but carpet, you can't clean it really. I mean, you can clean it, you can shampoo it, you can steam it, and people will say that they've cleaned it, but if something leaks through your carpet and through to your floor, it's gonna either smell forever or rot your floor. So a good idea to just replace it with a good hard floor to save yourself the trouble, because you got to think everything that underlies what your home is made of is a little bit slightly lower quality, tends to be. These are McMansions is a good term, and so a lot of the time the materials, the softer materials, they tend to get more damaged more easily, and so you just have to be cognizant of that. I mean, I could push my thumb right through that, and do strategies to mitigate the damage before it even happens, rather than trying to fix the cheap materials once they've been damaged. Another issue is the furnace. Now, our furnace has been fantastic. It's our furnace, I believe, is as old as the home. It's 27 years old. They say that the average lifespan of these furnaces is about 15 to 20 years, and ours is 27, so ours is outside of its range that it's supposed to work. If you open up the panel, which I'm not going to do, I guess, because it's kind of a pain, But it looks like a lot of work has been done on this furnace. Looks like many things have been replaced. So hopefully it lasts us a while. It is a high mileage furnace though, so I wouldn't be surprised if we have issues with it in the future. Something just to watch out for, that your furnace, at least what they said in the inspection report, was that and inspections are more for to kind of just help push the sale through, and for the bank's sake, not really for your sake. But the inspection report talks about the furnace being outside of its lifespan, but it still works. On the same topic of the climate control systems, this is essentially our air conditioning. It's a swamp cooler. It does work. Works quite well actually, or at least in theory it does. I trust swamp coolers do work. I've used them in other locations. I don't really want to use this one, and I'd like to actually pull it out and replace it with a wood stove. You see, we could tile this, and have a nice wood stove here, with the stovepipe just exiting there, because the thing is, really, what happens is that the water will drip down your roof and into your roof and rot a big patch of your roof. And it's super common to walk into a manufactured home and see the ceiling just bulging, and it's like the swamp cooler's just falling into the ceiling, or falling into the house basically. And then that'll cause, of course, more water intrusion when it rains. So it's a good idea to get rid of this thing, in my opinion, or to just put it, have it coming into a window instead of, up there. That way you're, rotting a smaller and less expensive area to fix, if that ends up being the situation. And you can take it out in winter, so you don't have to do all this taping, in winter to, there is like a little louver that closes on the outside, but we still have to tape it. It still leaks a lot of warm air, and heat rises, right? So this is basically just a giant leak of warm air. Now I advocate swamp coolers. I just don't believe in putting them in your roof. That's an important distinction to make. And you can see where it's rotted out the roof before. Water has dripped down. You can kind of see the discoloration there. They painted it and retextured it, obviously, but it has rotted the roof out before, and it was pretty bad. So, just something to keep in mind. Swamp coolers do tend to do this. It's super common. Cats love it though. Cats don't have any problem with this house. They love it. It's awesome for them. They have all this space to run around and do stuff. Yeah. Sage monkey. What? Monkey. What's up? What's up, big guy? Speaking of which, now that breakfast is over, we can let the bully out. So the final thing I wanted to show you is, I guess another thing, just a quick mention. If you're on your own piece of land, which honestly I wouldn't buy a manufactured house that's not sitting on a foundation on a piece of land. To me, that's a bad investment. Maybe you would, but from my perspective, it's not worth purchasing a manufactured house that's not on a piece of land on a foundation. So in that case, you are probably rural and you probably have a septic system. The septic system is a big thing. Just maintain your septic. Make sure your leach field doesn't fail. Get it inspected before you buy the house. Just be really cognizant of the septic system because they're expensive. I believe in this area it's like currently about $15,000, $10,000 to $15,000 to replace it. So, not easy. I know on the rockier land around here, your septic's going to run you about $35,000 to $40,000. So just something to keep in mind. If this does break, it's going to be quite expensive to fix. So good idea to keep it maintained. You don't want your toilet backing up or stinking. I'm not sure what that is. I wonder how that got here. But anyway, probably blew over here. As you can see, okay, what I wanted to mention, first of all, this is the line for the swamp cooler. It's currently turned off, but it just goes. Swamp coolers are it's almost like the feel of them when you use one when they're installed on your home. It's very improvised. Like there's not really a way to make it like nice, you know. I think what they need to do is to kind of refine the installation, but I don't think they want to. Not going to get into that, but you know, I think the installation process of a swamp coin needs to be refined a little bit, so you don't just have a line, you know, there just sitting there. Um, and you know, also things like a, you know, maybe a drip edge to divert the water off of your roof instead of into your roof. But again, I don't think that that's gonna happen. Um, but you know, we've got some obvious spray foam I did, and I still need to cut it, you know, trim it off and make it look nice. And the spray foam in the cinder block is obviously very temporary. Eventually, going to put mortar in there. But let's see. So common for that to freeze and break, and leak water all inside your wall. So great. And this is where the water heater goes. Now I need to redo this piece of wood. I just have it slapped up there real quick. I'm actually going to turn the water heater down a bit because it's a little bit too hot. But that's a common thing. This is something I was told by our plumber, is that, well, first of all, you can see it probably leaked down there at some point. But also, they tend to fail. Super common for them to fail really quickly. I was told it might only last a few years if we don't have a water softener out here. So, and that might be in part just due to our hard water, but also I was informed that it's probably just kind of a substandard water heater compared to what you would put in a normal home. So just keep an eye out on it, you know, for issues, and make sure that you know, do the maintenance you can. And I kind of wonder if there's an anode rod in there to kind of prevent the tank from rusting. Maybe something I might want to look at. Other common penetration, a lot of rural people, especially people before us, you know, they like to put in satellite dishes. Of course, now we have things like long-range Wi-Fi and 4G to access the internet and get our TV signal. So we don't really need these anymore. These are kind of outdated. But you know, there's probably one on your wall, and it's just a good idea to make sure that it's not destroying your wall, like this one appears to be doing a little bit. So yeah, just something to look out for. I think they did a pretty good job of just gooping all around this one, but eventually I'm going to remove this and throw it away and seal up all the holes that were left over from it. Just something to keep your eye out on. Make sure you don't let that destroy your wall. Another note on plumbing and septic. So in our home, well, I'll show you kind of visually. Old New Mexico mud, look at how sticky this stuff is. Like, it'll just track absolutely everywhere. I've been trying to scrape it off of my feet, and there's still some left. Alright, so if we go in here, and I've got a mess of paperwork to clean up down there and stuff, but if we go in here, our plumbing tees off right about here. And so right here is just a hard right angle, so it goes through to the other side of the house, and then, you know, to the master bathroom and the kitchen, and the septic I'm talking about, or the sewer line, and it just hard tees out to the septic tank. Ideally, at least this is what our plumber told us, and it makes sense. You want to decrease the intensity of that angle, so you want to kind of create a curve where it can go in and exit, instead of what it wants to do, actually, because the house is a little bit of an angle and there might be a little bit of a valley right there, so like a sag. So what tends to happen is that when we flush on that end of the house, it tends to want to go into that toilet, or in that direction. It doesn't actually go into that toilet, but it goes in that direction. And flushing from this end of the house, the second bathroom, it doesn't really want to exit. It just kind of wants to back up into that bathroom. And you can actually hear it, I bet, if I do something like this. If I turn on this sink and then flush this toilet. I don't know if you heard that, but it actually like bubbled at the tub, because there's just so little. I think because there's so little encouragement for it to drain out, it kind of just sits here and kind of like swishes rather than going out. So it's a good idea to get that fixed. Ideally, you would turn this from a hard T into a little bit of a softer angle so that you know, it actually wants to go out, not just sit right there. But yeah, overall, that's my little video of the trials and tribulations of living in a manufactured home. It really hasn't been a bad experience. Obviously, I'm trying to go over the problems of it in a video specifically, so don't let this completely put you off from getting one if this is your way that you can get into owning a home. I still personally believe in the idea of owning your home as an individual, especially in the U.S. Unfortunately, this is what our society is built around, and if you're not on the property ladder, you're off of it. And so it can be very difficult to, this is kind of one of the primary tools through which Americans in the United States build wealth. And so, it's just, I think it's still worthwhile. I just think you got to meter your expectations, understand what you're getting into, and, ultimately use some of these flaws as advantages when it comes to negotiating, and maybe just avoid really destroyed homes, that you're going to have to do too much work to. I've seen a lot of them where they get rotted out and people have to gut and rebuild the entire house. And at that point, why not just, build a new house if possible, So that's kind of where I'm at with, with these. I think they're worth it, but just, be aware of what you're getting into. And for us, our choice was, we could have 0.18 or 16 acres or something, 0.1 something acres, and it would still be crummy land, and we would have a big house that's a mess. Or we could have 1.25 acres in a nice arrangement, with a house that's honestly in decent condition. Like, this house is in better condition than any of the regular, quote-unquote regular houses, stick-built or adobe houses that we came across. So it may not last as long, it may not maintain itself, it's going to be higher maintenance, but in the end it was more worthwhile to get into this place than it was to spend 10 years and $500,000 fixing, somebody else's mess. This just puts us in a better situation, and again, if we need to, we can pull this place out of here, put it somewhere else, and build something else here. So, and that doesn't tend to happen very often, but we do have multiple other pieces of land, so we could actually put this somewhere else if we wanted to, and probably be worth it, and build a nicer house here. So, that's kind of my synopsis of, I actually have one more thing. So I didn't really focus on this very much, but this window, you can see all kinds of damage has happened. The windowsill has kind of rotted. Up here, had to seal that up. There's some rot right there. This plastic, there was plastic all along this, all along the outside of it, and I did a terrible, this is like the first time I ever did any sealing, really, or caulking and trying to make it look nice. This is what actually is around it normally, this plastic crap, and this stuff disintegrates, which is what happens in all of these areas, and so this is just my attempt to get it sealed up before it rained again. It is winter too, so I had to do all this in winter, which means it didn't cure very well, but this is kind of what it looks like, just rotting out. So, just keep an eye on that, and all of our windows have a similar issue where we kind of need to work on that. So, we're going to work on it. But again, back to the outro. Also, I could probably show you what this looks like. Yep, see, it just dumps water on your head basically every time you open and close this door for right now. And that's largely because the gutter above it is not sealed at the joint, so it leaks through the joint onto this drip edge and then accumulates a bunch of water. But anyway, that's my little video about the flaws of living in a manufactured home, and what you can expect that you might have to work on. I'm sure there are other things that I didn't mention or what was kind of vague about, but basically just be aware of it. Be aware of what you're getting into, and you know, it might work out for you. It might be worth it. So thanks for watching. Hopefully this video provided somebody with some useful information, and I'll see you in the next one.